When HOA President Karen ripped my 2-week-old baby from my wife's arms during a fire drill, she screamed, "Babies don't belong here." She had no idea she just kidnapped a Navy SEAL's son. What happened next destroyed her life forever. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The fire alarm was screaming through our apartment at exactly 2:15 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. I jumped out of bed where I had been taking a much-needed nap after working a night shift. The piercing sound cut through the peaceful quiet of our small 2-bedroom apartment like a knife. I ran to the kitchen where my wife Lisa was sitting in her favorite rocking chair, gently feeding our newborn baby Tommy. He was only 2 weeks old, so tiny and perfect, with the softest brown hair and eyes that were just starting to focus on our faces. Lisa looked up at me with worry in her tired eyes. "Fire alarm," I shouted over the deafening noise that seemed to be getting louder by the second. Lisa immediately stopped feeding Tommy and grabbed him close, wrapping him carefully in his soft blue blanket that her mother had knitted for him. "Is it real this time or another one of those fake drills?" "I don't know, but we can't take any chances. We have to get out right now." I threw on the first clothes I could find, jeans and a navy t-shirt. Lisa was already moving toward the door, holding Tommy close to her chest to keep him warm against the October cold. We could hear other residents in the hallway, footsteps running, doors slamming, voices calling out to each other. We rushed downstairs with all the other people from our building. Mrs. Rodriguez from 3A was helping her elderly mother down the stairs. The college students from 2B were laughing nervously as they filed out. Everyone seemed confused about whether this was real or just another drill. Outside in the parking lot, everyone was gathering in small groups, talking quietly and looking back at the building. The autumn air was crisp and cold, and I could see Lisa shivering slightly as she held Tommy. I took off my jacket and wrapped it around both of them. That's when I saw her walking toward us with her clipboard and that familiar angry expression, Karen Wilson, the HOA president. She was the meanest, most controlling woman I'd ever met in my life. Always complaining about everything we did, always finding new ways to make our lives difficult. Karen was in her mid-50s, with short gray hair that was always perfectly styled, expensive clothes that looked out of place in our modest apartment complex, and the kind of cold smile that never reached her eyes. From the day we moved in 3 months ago, she had made it clear that she didn't want young families in her building. She had complained when Lisa hung baby clothes on our small balcony to dry. She had filed a noise complaint when Tommy cried at night, even though our neighbors said they could barely hear him. She had even tried to fine us for having a baby stroller in our hallway, claiming it was a fire hazard. Karen marched over to us with her clipboard held like a weapon, her HOA president badge gleaming in the afternoon sun. "You can't bring that baby out here during an emergency evacuation." Lisa looked up at her with confusion, adjusting Tommy's blanket to make sure he stayed warm. "What do you mean? It's our son. Babies don't count in official fire drills. The regulations clearly state that non-walking residents must be left in their units during evacuations. Take him back upstairs immediately." I stepped forward, feeling my protective instincts kick in. "We're not leaving our 2-week-old baby alone during a fire emergency." Karen's face started turning red, the way it always did when someone questioned her authority. "I'm the HOA president of this complex. I've been managing emergency procedures here for 6 years. Those are the official safety regulations." "That's not a real rule," I said, keeping my voice calm but firm. "No legitimate fire safety regulation requires parents to abandon their babies during an evacuation." "Don't you dare argue with me," Karen yelled, loud enough that other residents started turning to look at us. "I know these regulations better than some young tenant who's been here for 5 minutes. Other neighbors were watching now, but they looked scared of Karen rather than supportive. She had been bullying and intimidating everyone in the complex for years. People were afraid to stand up to her because she had the power to make their lives miserable with fines, violations and harassment. Mrs. Chin from 4C was holding her own baby, looking nervous. Mr. Peterson from 1A had his toddler daughter with him. None of them said anything, but I could see the concern in their eyes. Lisa started crying, holding Tommy even closer. "Please, Karen, he's just a tiny baby. We can't leave him alone." "I don't care how small he is," Karen snapped. "Babies cause problems during emergencies. They cry and slow everyone down. They distract other residents from following proper evacuation procedures." I looked down at Tommy, who wasn't even crying. He was sleeping peacefully in Lisa's arms, completely unaware of the chaos around him. "He's not crying," I pointed out. "He's not causing any problems." "He will be," Karen insisted. Babies always cause problems. That's why the regulations exist. What regulations? I demanded. Show me in writing where it says parents have to abandon their babies. Karen clutched her clipboard tighter. I don't have to show you anything. I'm the authority here. When I give an order, you follow it. Lisa was crying harder now, her whole body shaking. Please, we just want to keep our baby safe. Then you should have thought about that before you decided to have a baby in a building with proper safety standards. Karen shouted. The crowd was getting larger. More residents had come outside, and they were all watching our confrontation with a mixture of shock and fear. I could see phones being pulled out, people starting to record what was happening. We're not leaving our son, I said firmly. If you have a problem with that, you can call the fire department and ask them about proper evacuation procedures for families with infants. Karen got even angrier. Don't tell me to call anyone. I'll call building security and have you both removed from the property for violating emergency protocols. For refusing to abandon our baby? For disrupting a mandatory safety drill and refusing to follow direct orders from the HOA president. That's when Karen made her first big mistake. Instead of backing down or calling actual authorities, she decided to take matters into her own hands. If you won't follow the rules, she said, stepping closer to Lisa, then I'll handle this myself. Before either of us could react, Karen reached out and grabbed for Tommy. She pulled him right out of Lisa's arms with rough, careless hands. Give me that baby, Karen said, holding my tiny son awkwardly and too tight. Lisa screamed at the top of her lungs. No. Give me my baby. Tommy immediately started crying because Karen was holding him wrong, squeezing him too hard, and the sudden movement had scared him. The cold October air hit his little face, making him cry even louder. He's mine now, Karen declared, stepping back from us. I'm taking him upstairs where he belongs according to proper safety regulations. That's when something snapped inside me. But my Navy SEAL training kicked in, and instead of losing control, I became completely focused and calm. This was a hostile situation involving my family, and I knew exactly how to handle it. Ma'am, I said in my military command voice, the tone I used when lives were on the line, you need to give me my son right now. Karen looked at me for the first time with a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, but she was too angry and too used to getting her way to back down. You can't tell me what to do. I'm the HOA president. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. Give me my baby. Now. I'm calling the police on you for threatening a HOA official. Karen yelled, still holding Tommy, who was crying louder now. Good idea, I said calmly. Please call them. I'd like to file a report for assault and kidnapping. Kidnapping? Karen looked shocked. I was following proper safety procedures. You physically took someone else's baby against the parent's will. In every state in America, that's called kidnapping. I could see other residents pulling out their phones, some calling 911, others recording everything that was happening. Karen was starting to realize that this wasn't going the way she had planned. I have authority here, she insisted, but her voice was getting shaky. No authority on earth gives you the right to take people's babies. Lisa was sobbing and reaching for Tommy. Please give him back. You're hurting him. Karen ignored Lisa and turned back to me. I'm going to have you both evicted for this. That's when I decided she had gone far enough. I moved with the precision and speed that had been drilled into me through years of military training. Not violent, but swift and completely controlled. I stepped forward, secured Tommy with one hand, and with the other, I firmly but safely moved Karen aside. The entire movement took less than 2 seconds. Tommy was back in my arms, and I immediately handed him to Lisa, who started checking him over and trying to soothe his cries. Karen stood there staring at me, completely shocked. What just happened? What happened, I said calmly, is that you just committed assault and attempted kidnapping in front of 30 witnesses. Kidnapping? I was following HOA regulations. You physically removed an infant from his parents' arms against their will. That's kidnapping, and it's a felony. Karen's face was cycling between red and pale. I was just trying to maintain proper safety standards. By terrorizing a new mother and endangering a baby? Just then we heard the sound of real fire trucks approaching. This wasn't a drill after all. There had been a small electrical fire in the basement laundry room, and the alarm was completely legitimate. Fire Chief Martinez and his crew came running over to our group when they saw the commotion. What's happening here? Is everyone accounted for? I quickly explained the situation while Lisa continued to calm Tommy down. Other neighbors immediately spoke up to support our version of events. She grabbed the baby right out of the mother's arms, said Mrs. Rodriguez. She said they had to leave the baby alone upstairs during the fire, said Mr. Peterson. The baby was crying because she was holding him too rough, added Mrs. Chen. Fire Chief Martinez looked at Karen with complete disgust. Ma'am, there is absolutely no fire safety regulation that requires parents to abandon their children during an evacuation. What you did was not only wrong, it was dangerous and completely against all emergency protocols. Karen was getting desperate now. But I'm the HOA president. I've been managing emergency procedures here for 6 years. I know the regulations. You don't know anything about fire safety, Chief Martinez said firmly. In 30 years of emergency response, I've never heard anything so ridiculous. Parents evacuate with their children, especially babies who can't walk. I pulled out my military ID and handed it to Chief Martinez. Sir, I'm Petty Officer Mike Johnson, Navy SEALs. I've been trained in emergency procedures, civilian evacuation protocols and child protection. What this woman did was assault and attempted kidnapping. Chief Martinez examined my ID and nodded with respect. Thank you for your service, Petty Officer Johnson. And you're absolutely right about what happened here. Karen's face went completely white when she heard Navy SEALs. For the first time she seemed to realize she might be in serious trouble. You're military? She whispered. Yes, ma'am. And you just assaulted and attempted to kidnap a military family's newborn baby. The full implications of what she had done started hitting Karen like a freight train. Crimes against military families are taken very seriously by law enforcement. Federal charges could be involved. I didn't know, she stammered. It wouldn't matter if you did know, I replied. What you did was wrong regardless of who we are or what I do for a living. Police officers arrived about 5 minutes later. Chief Martinez had called them to document the incident and take statements from witnesses. Officers Davis and Miller took detailed statements from Lisa and me, as well as from multiple neighbors who had witnessed Karen grabbing Tommy. Mrs. Wilson, Officer Davis said after interviewing several witnesses, based on multiple eyewitness accounts and the evidence we've gathered, I'm placing you under arrest for assault, attempted kidnapping and child endangerment. This is completely ridiculous. Karen protested as they began putting handcuffs on her. I'm a respected member of this community. I've been HOA president for 6 years. I was just trying to enforce proper safety regulations. Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. As they read Karen her Miranda rights and led her toward the patrol car, she turned back to us one final time. This isn't over, she shouted, her face twisted with rage. I'll make your lives miserable. You'll regret the day you moved into my complex. I'll find a way to get you evicted. Officer Miller shook his head. Ma'am, I would strongly advise you to stop talking right now. But Karen couldn't help herself. That baby doesn't belong here. Young parents are irresponsible. They think everyone should accommodate their choices. The officers put her in the back of the patrol car while she continued shouting threats and insults. As they drove away, Karen was still visible through the back window, gesturing angrily and yelling things we couldn't hear. After Karen was taken away, the other residents slowly gathered around us. The support was overwhelming and unexpected. I'm so sorry that happened to you, said Mrs. Rodriguez with tears in her eyes. Is the baby okay? We've all been afraid of her for years, admitted Mr. Peterson. She's been bullying residents and making up fake rules to control everyone, but nobody wanted to stand up to her. You did the right thing, said Mrs. Chen. Someone needed to stop her before she hurt someone. She's been terrorizing families in this complex for years, said Mr. Davis from 2C. Always complaining about children, always trying to make life difficult for young parents. Fire Chief Martinez approached us one more time before his crew finished checking the building. Petty Officer Johnson, I want you to know that what you did today was handled perfectly. You protected your family without escalating to unnecessary violence, and you followed proper channels for reporting the incident. Thank you, Chief. And ma'am, he said to Lisa, you're an excellent mother. What that woman said about parents and babies was completely wrong and against everything we know about emergency safety. You did everything exactly right. Lisa finally managed to smile through her tears. Thank you. I was so scared. I've never had anyone try to take my baby before. You never have to be scared of her again, I assured her. The property management company arrived an hour later. When they heard what had happened, they were horrified. Karen had been acting without any authority from the actual property owners, making up rules that didn't exist in any lease or HOA agreement. Over the next few days, the story spread throughout the complex and the surrounding community. Local news picked up the story with the headline, HOA president arrested for attempting to kidnap baby during fire emergency. The complex's property management company immediately suspended Karen from her HOA position pending a full investigation. When they reviewed her actions over the past 6 years, they discovered that many of her rules had been completely fabricated. She had been using her position to intimidate and control residents through fear and fake authority. 3 weeks later, Karen Mitchell was found guilty on all charges in a trial that lasted only 2 days. The evidence against her was overwhelming: multiple witnesses, video footage from residents' phones, and her own recorded statements to police. Judge Anderson was particularly harsh in his sentencing, clearly disgusted by what he had heard. "Mrs. Wilson," Judge Anderson said, "what you did to this family was not only illegal but morally reprehensible. You used your position of supposed authority to terrorize new parents and endanger an innocent baby. Your actions show a complete disregard for basic human decency and the law." Karen was sentenced to 6 months in county jail, 2 years of probation, 500 hours of community service working with child protection organizations, and ordered to pay $15,000 in damages to our family for emotional distress and legal costs. She was also permanently banned from holding any HOA position anywhere in the state. But the real victory came from the positive changes her arrest brought to our apartment complex. The residents held a meeting and voted to completely restructure how the HOA operated. New bylaws were written that limited any president's authority and required all rules to be approved by a majority vote of residents. A grievance committee was established to handle complaints about HOA management. Most importantly, new policies were put in place specifically to protect families with children. Discrimination against families was explicitly banned, and emergency procedures were rewritten to prioritize child safety and family unity. 6 months later, our apartment complex held its first annual family barbecue. Tommy, now a healthy 8-month-old baby, was crawling around on a blanket and had become the center of attention for all the neighbors. "He's gotten so big," said Mrs. Rodriguez, gently touching Tommy's tiny hand as he tried to grab her finger. "And so happy," added Mrs. Chin. "Look at that big smile. He's such a joy." "He's going to be walking soon," predicted Mr. Peterson, watching Tommy pull himself up on the edge of his blanket. Mr. Davis approached me while I was helping to grill hamburgers for everyone. "Mike, I owe you a sincere apology." "For what?" "For not standing up to Karen sooner. We all knew she was wrong about so many things, but we were scared of her retaliation. You showed us that bullies only have the power we give them." "You don't owe me anything," I replied. "When it really mattered, you all stood up and told the truth. That's what stopped her." Lisa joined us, carrying Tommy in his favorite blue outfit with little sailboats on it. "Look who just woke up from his nap." "There's our little hero," said Mr. Peterson, making funny faces that made Tommy giggle. "He looks just like his dad," said Mrs. Rodriguez. "Poor kid," I joked, making everyone laugh. That evening, as we walked around the complex with Tommy in his new stroller, Lisa reflected on how much our lives had changed. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if Karen had actually succeeded in taking him upstairs that day?" I considered the question seriously. "She never would have succeeded, Lisa. Not while I was alive and breathing." "But what if you hadn't been there? What if it had just been me alone with her?" "Then you would have protected him just like you did that day. You're much stronger than you realize, and you're an amazing mother." Lisa smiled and reached down to adjust Tommy's blanket. "He's so lucky to have you as his father. We're both lucky to have you as our family." As we walked past the exact spot where the fire trucks had been parked on that terrible day, I thought about how one moment of pure evil had actually led to so much good. Karen's cruelty had brought our community together in ways that never would have happened otherwise. Her illegal actions had led to better protections and fairer treatment for all families. Her abuse of fake power had resulted in a more democratic and just system for everyone. Tommy gurgled happily in his stroller, reaching up to try to catch the leaves falling from the trees, completely unaware of the drama and danger that had surrounded his first month of life. He would grow up in a safe, supportive community where families were protected and bullies couldn't hide behind fake authority. That night, as I watched Lisa feeding Tommy his bottle before bedtime, I reflected on the day that had changed everything for us. Karen Wilson had thought she could terrorize a young family because we looked vulnerable and new to the complex. She had assumed her position gave her unlimited power over residents and their children. She had made one fatal miscalculation. She had tried to take a baby away from his Navy SEAL father. Some mistakes in life you only get to make once. Karen learned that day that real strength isn't about intimidating people who seem weaker than you. Real strength is about protecting those who can't protect themselves, especially innocent children. And sometimes, when evil reaches out to harm the most vulnerable among us, real strength and proper training are exactly what the world needs most. Tommy fell asleep in Lisa's arms, completely safe and surrounded by love, in a community that would never again allow anyone to hurt the smallest and most precious members of their family. That's how one evil woman's cruelty ended up making the world a safer place for babies like our son. And that's how a Navy SEAL's training to protect the innocent proved that some battles are fought not with violence or weapons, but with unwavering love, courage, and the absolute refusal to let evil people harm innocent children.